Label reading can be confusing. Let's spend a couple minutes decoding the nutrition facts label so we can better identify heart-healthy options. This image on the slide is from the FDA, and it has a few specific areas of the nutrition facts label highlighted. First of all, we have the serving size. The serving size shows how many servings are in the package and how big the serving is. All of the nutrition information listed on the rest of the label is based on one serving of the food. So if you eat double that serving size, you're going to get double the amount of nutrients listed. The serving size is usually listed in volume, and then in parentheses next to it, it has the weight of that serving size. So this example has 1/4 of a cup as a serving, and that 1/4 cup of that particular food weighs about 113 grams. The second thing that's highlighted on this label is the amount of calories, and that's the amount of calories listed for one serving of the food. The third section is the percent daily values. So the percent daily value section tells you how the nutrients in one serving of this food contribute towards your total diet. You could use this to choose foods that are high in nutrients that you want to get more of, and low in nutrients that you should get less of or that you're trying to eat less of. Please note that these percentages are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, so they might work well for some people, but not necessarily for everybody. The fourth section is the group of nutrients that you want to keep an eye on. Eating too much trans fat and maybe too much saturated fat or sodium could increase your risk of heart disease or having another event. The fifth section is the types of nutrients that you want to typically eat more of. So Americans often do not eat enough dietary fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and potassium. These nutrients are essential for keeping you feeling strong and healthy. The nutrition facts label is going to be getting a makeover pretty soon, and you may have even seen some of these new labels on foods already. A few of the main changes that are occurring are going to be a refreshed design, the addition of added sugars, actual amounts of vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, and that would be in addition to their percent daily value amounts that have traditionally been listed. These changes were initially planned for this July of 2018, but it was extended to January 1st, 2020. And the groups of food manufacturers who have to meet this deadline of January 1st, 2020 are going to be the companies that have $10 million or more in annual food sales. The smaller companies, or the ones that make less than $10 million per year, will have an additional year to comply with the changes, so they get a little extra time to switch over. By law, serving sizes must be based on the amounts of foods and beverages that people are actually eating, and not necessarily based on recommendations of like a portion of what we think would be a good amount for people to eat. But because it's based on the amount of food that people are actually eating or realistically eating, serving sizes are going to be increasing to better reflect how much people are typically eating at one time. This could be good because there have been some food products, like beverage bottles, for instance, that might say there's 3 servings of a drink in this bottle, but most people would drink the whole bottle at one sitting. So it is supposed to be a little more realistic. And the addition of added sugars is pretty exciting because before, where it just says sugars, we don't know if those are naturally occurring or added. So being able to see that difference of how many grams of added sugars there are will be really beneficial. So the next topic that we're going to talk about is the Mediterranean diet. This is one of 2 types of eating patterns we're going to go into. The Mediterranean diet is an eating pattern that emphasizes activity and social connections and a lot of plant-based foods. It focuses on eating more whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, herbs, spices, nuts, and healthy fats like olive oil each day. With this type of eating plan, fish and seafood are eaten at least twice a week. Dairy foods are eaten frequently and in moderate portions. Eggs and occasional poultry are also part of this diet, but red meat and sweets are rarely eaten. Water and wine, for those who drink alcohol, are typical beverages with this type of eating plan. And this eating pattern has been associated with a lot of benefits, such as lowering a person's risk of all-cause and premature death, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, overweight and obesity, and several cancers. And it's initially based on the types of foods that people were eating in kind of around the 50s and 60s, and in areas near the Mediterranean diet. Researchers noticed that people in that area at that time were living pretty long lives and really healthy overall, and it was for several reasons, including genetics, but their eating pattern did appear to play a pretty large role in that. Here's an image of the Mediterranean food pyramid created by Old Ways. And it shows the most valuable items at the base of the pyramid, such as being physically active and enjoying meals with others. And then the next section are the plant-based foods, so getting multiple servings of those a day. Then fish and seafood would be the next priority, and then poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. And then finally at the top, what we want to have the least amount of would be red meats and sweets. And then the beverages are located on the side. The next type of eating pattern I wanted to touch on is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension, which is also known as the DASH diet. The DASH diet shares some similar concepts of the Mediterranean diet. It encourages eating vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. It includes fat-free or low-fat dairy products in an attempt to kind of watch the amount of saturated fat that a person eats. It also includes fish, poultry, beans, nuts, and vegetable oils. And the diet encourages people to limit foods that are high in saturated fat, like fatty meats, full-fat dairy products, and tropical oils like coconut, palm kernel, and palm oils. Additionally, the DASH diet limits sugar-sweetened beverages and sweets. This type of eating pattern has shown that it can help lower blood pressure and LDL cholesterol when compared to the typical American diet. We've talked about a lot of different nutrition topics today. Some people find that they're feeling up to making one or two small swaps in their usual eating pattern, and that can gradually help them eat more heart-healthy foods, while others want to do kind of a bigger change and want more of a structured eating plan to learn some of these aspects of heart-healthy eating. Either way is okay. I think it's good to go with whatever you prefer. So hopefully the information that we've talked about so far will help give you some ideas on, substitutions you could make, or if you're interested in looking into a more eating pattern, kind of overall plan, you could look into the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet. The next slide I have as we start to kind of wrap up talks about how to find more information about healthy eating and nutrition from reliable sources. So it's important to look for research-based websites if you're researching online. These usually end in .org, .gov, or .edu. And when you're looking through websites or books or talking to people that you might know, you want to ask yourself if the source that you found is trying to sell you a product. Is it trying to sell you something, or are they really trying to provide information and educate? What are their motives? Salespeople can be very persuasive, so it's important to kind of take a step back and think, are they trying to push a product? Or are they really just there for the information, for education, and want to help you learn? It's also good to check it out and see if it's promising a quick fix. Unfortunately, with nutrition and a lot of things in life, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. It's also a good idea to look at credentials. So you wouldn't ask a celebrity to do your dental work, you'd ask a dentist. I think the same type of thinking should apply for nutrition advice. It's good to look for an experienced nutrition professional who has an educational background in nutrition. The following 2 websites on the slide are examples of some research-based websites, and they provide more information about the 2 heart-healthy eating patterns that we discussed. So the first one talks about the Mediterranean diet, has some recipes and other ideas. And then the second one is a government website that has research and information about the DASH diet, if that's something that you're interested in incorporating. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this presentation. For the next section of the seminar, some of the activities that I have planned include taste testings of lower sodium products, like crackers and peanut butter. We'll also look at the salt-free herb and spice blend recipe. We'll practice label reading with some real products. And then additionally, we'll have a game to help practice meal planning ideas and heart-healthy swaps. We'll additionally touch on some ideas and tips for heart-healthy eating while going out to eat. And thank you very much. Please let me know what questions you have.